Hello, gang. Well, two different gangs. Here is the Principles of Design PowerPoint lecture. Um, both classes had already gotten to a point in this section, but I'm going to go ahead and recap and do the whole thing for you. So, starting out with the list, and I'm going to load this PowerPoint onto Moodle as well, but I also wanted to give the lecture in a video format. So, as I've told you before, the list of principles varies. On the right here, you can see some links to various different lists, but most of them contain roughly the same things, just listed in different order. This is the list I prefer. So, moving forward with that, the first principle, which is how the elements are then used in a piece of visual art, is unity and or variety. So, visual unity is about belonging. Now, in this piece, I talked about how it's very obvious. The same dress, they're in the same room, they're around the same table. Leo has painted them the same, with the same style, the same approach. Okay? A very unified visually piece. It's you couldn't, nothing, nobody has googly eyes or anything like that. However, within the piece, he also includes the variety. And the variety comes from the various poses, the various facial expressions, the chaotic scene of Christ announcing to his disciples that one of you will betray me. So there's lots of things going on here to instill variety in an otherwise very static, boring piece that would be if everybody was looking the same, if everybody was seated the same and symmetrical, then it'd be very boring. So by including all this conversation and things like that going on, he adds variety to a very unified piece. Now, some ways to create visual unity, I've talked about them briefly, is nearness in space, time, or relationship. So, they're together in the same room. It's all the same event happening at the same time. And they have a physical as well as a costume based relationship. Another way to create visual unity is using repetition. So in this one, we have not only these marks up here, this constant hatching here around the hair, but also the use of very round forms. Everything's very round, lots of circles, lots of ovals, very round shapes. Repetition of these round shapes over and over and over throughout this little sculpture. So it creates a sense of unity. All of this goes together. Okay? Again, with repetition, Andy Warhol's soup cans. I'm going to do green and use the pen, although the pen's really skinny. So, but what he's done here is by repeating this soup can, and there are various different, there's vegetable, there's pepper something. It's a rough slide. But obviously in marketing, branding, repetition, it's all from the same company, okay? But also Andy trying to elevate it to more of art than a normal object. Another way to create visual unity is color, light, and the color schemes, the color harmonies. So again, this one is obviously painted by the same hand. Everything's handled the same. There's not all of a sudden the peaches are made, drawn with a Sharpie in the middle of this oil painting. But also the light source is consistent, and the colors and how they are, how saturated they are, how not saturated they are. Things like the location of, things like the highlight here and here, here. All of us is saying that the light source is coming from this same direction. So it has a unified light source, it has unified handling, softness, color is handled the same way. Okay. Another way to create visual unity is by the handling. And of course, we go back to Vincent. You can't tell me that, no, if you saw a Vincent van Gogh painting, it's Vincent simply by the way he painted. The mark making, the short, quick strokes. It's all handled very similarly. Again, there's no sudden change in medium. There's no sudden change in brush strokes or anything like that. So it's all very consistent, all handled by the same hand. Okay? Then we have something called visual disunity or extreme variety. You can tell by the date, this is middle of the 20th century. We've already gone through the Industrial Revolution, trying to make things look like what they are, has given way to experimentation and all kinds of different approaches. So this one being called the gift to Apollo or gift for Apollo, we have Apollo's form of transportation, which was usually the chariot. That's how he would bring the sunrise. So he's created this rickety found object chariot made of old doors and windows, and there's a tie, and all these different nonsensical things put together to make this wobbly chariot. And then instead of being drawn by horses, he has it chained to a feed bucket to represent the horses. So this amalgamation, this big collection of junk being formed together into a modern 20th century broken version of Apollo's chariot.